Hey there, friends. This is Philip from PGH Woodcraft, coming to you from inside Ancient City Craftworks. Today I want to talk to you about an idea that I call Beware the Wow. This idea comes from, or it actually started when some of the companies I've worked for, I would analyze some of the purchases that they made. And oftentimes I would find that we bought equipment or software to do a particular task, and it didn't work out to the height that we got. In rare occasions, I'd find that we bought different software to solve the same problem, and neither one of them worked out. And I got to thinking about how could we be so careless with the company's money by purchasing software or equipment for things that we really didn't need. And then it hit me. You know what? I'm guilty of that myself in my own hobbies, work, whatever you want to call it, because I have this tendency that when I start to learn a new skill or develop a new hobby, I go all in. And that means I research the stuff, and I tend to buy the best equipment that I can possibly afford, buy all the tools that I might possibly need, and that has led to a lot of waste. So as I'm thinking through this issue at work and how we need to get away from just buying things on impulse, you know, I started thinking about this wow factor because, again, as part of my role, I get contacted by vendors all the time wanting to sell me things. And they're all promising to solve every single problem that I have at work. They don't even know what problems I have, but they make the pitch that they can solve all my problems. And I think this is what's happened with a lot of those purchases I was referring to is vendors come in, they make these great promises, and boom, there we go, we buy things that we don't need. And I do the same thing. Been guilty of it many times. But over the years, I've developed kind of a habit, a little bit of a habit that has served me well. I want to share that with you today. So first of all, let's think about woodworking. Most of us don't really, when we get into this thing, we say we want to be woodworkers. We want to get into woodworking, but we really don't know what that means because woodworking is a term that covers a vast array of possibilities. So for example, in woodworking, you have two primary methods or styles, if you will. One is what we refer to as flat work. This means that we deal with boards that have been dimensioned and we turn it into boxes, gifts, furniture, anything like that. The other thing we do is called round work or turning. And in this case, this is a bowl. Uses two completely different sets of tools. So if you're interested in flat work, you're going to start down one path of investment. If you're interested in turning, you're going to be going down a different path. So you really need to understand what type of woodwork you're going to be. But it's even more complicated than that because within each genre of woodworking, there are subfields or subspecialties, if you will. So for example, now this is a bowl that we turn on a lathe. And this is one of the ornaments that I did this year. You may have seen my video on the birdhouse ornament. This was a lot of fun. Two different styles of wood turning. And again, while they both use the lathe, they require different hand tools to go with that. So you really need to kind of zero in on what kind of woodworking it is you want to do. Even within flat work, we see that it could be the small items, small gift items like the boxes that I just showed you, could be larger furniture. And that's really going to guide the type of investment that you need to make there. So first of all, you need to understand what type of woodworking that you want to be involved in. Right? How do you do that? A lot of people don't know the answer to that. So first of all, probably the best way to do that is if you can find somebody that's already in the craft. One common thing about woodworkers is we like to talk about woodworking. We like to show people woodworking. We like to teach. And this is, I find this a common trait among many of the creative type people. whether they're woodworkers, potters, painters, whatever it is. A lot of people like to share their craft with other people. So if you can find a woodworker in your area and just spend some time in their shop, almost without a doubt, even if they're not close family friends or something like that, if you approach a woodworker like that and ask to spend some time in their shop, they will readily agree to that. I mean, for example, I've had people come into my shop and just look around and tinker a little bit. So this is a great way to learn. If you don't have access to that, go on the internet and look for clubs, whether it's a turning club or a woodworking club, a woodworking guild, something like that. And don't fall into the trap that I fell into early on, where I felt, you know, you got to have a certain skill level before you can go to one of these clubs. That is not the case. They welcome people of all skill levels, and they really enjoy having beginners come in. And because most of them are older woodworkers, been doing this a long time, now they get a chance to share the craft. Some of these clubs also have shops, common shops that you can use. You can do some turning there. You can use some of their tools. So that's a great way to figure out what type of woodwork that you would like to get into. Number 2, don't buy a tool until you need it. Okay? And this is, again, really hard for me to say some of these things, because I'm thinking back, you know, I bought tools that I used one time and never used them again. And that is a complete waste. So when I say don't buy a tool until you need it, what I really mean is don't buy a tool until you have a regular need for it, that you're going to use it multiple times. Because within woodworking, there are multiple ways to do everything. Okay? So, you know, something as simple as cutting a 45-degree miter. There's many, many different ways to do that. You can do it on a miter saw, you can do it on a table saw, you can do it with a handheld miter box, and the list goes on and on. So if you're not sure that you're going to use a tool multiple times, resist the urge to buy it, figure out another way to get the job done, and it'll work just fine. Once your woodworking progresses to a certain level, then you might want to invest in that tool, where you know that you're going to use that tool multiple times. Then you go out and buy the tool, and then that makes it a good investment. All right, another way that you should look to save money is consider buying used tools. Okay? So I have an example here. This is a Diston handsaw made in the 1940s, 1950s, somewhere around there. I paid $1 for the same. I bought it at an estate sale. It was hanging on the wall. Nobody else had looked at it. So I ended up with a very high quality steel back saw for $1. Okay? In the same sale, I ended up buying this handsaw, and I think this one was $2, maybe $3. Both of them needed to be sharpened a little bit, but they were in excellent condition and worked extremely well. So the same concept holds true for power tools, small power tools as well. So think about garage sales, yard sales. Think about estate sales. Think about thrift shops. A lot of times you can get into a thrift shop and buy some of the secondhand power tools that work just fine for little or no money. Most of the time they're going to need new blades, but again, the blades themselves are fairly cheap. So consider used tools when you're getting into woodworking. Consider buying good as opposed to buying great. So consider buying average tools as opposed to buying great when you're first starting out. So in one of my other videos, cheap videos or cheap tools, I showed you this spoke shave. Okay, this spoke shave I bought off Amazon, paid very little money for it. It works okay. I mean, it really works decent, but it really helped me understand what I needed in a spoke shave rather than immediately jumping in and spending, $50 to $100 to buy a good spoke shave. Okay. Another example is this set of Irwin chisels. Now, what I really want is a set of Narex Richter chisels, but those are priced, and they're great chisels, by the way, but those are priced at a point where I could buy 4 Irwin chisels for the price of 1 Narex Richter chisel. And at the level of my hand tool woodworking, quite frankly, it wouldn't have made a difference because I'm just not that good at it yet. So these are good tools. These are acceptable tools. You can sharpen them very well. You can get a nice edge on them, and they do the job. Are they going to last me for my entire woodworking career? No. At some point, I am going to step up. And I've already decided that as I need new chisels, I will be replacing them with the Narex chisels rather than with these. So, for example, I need a 1/8 inch chisel. This did not come in the Irwin set, so now I'm thinking about buying the Narex 1/8 chisel to round this out. So eventually, over time, we are going to fill this thing out. All right, let's talk about wood for a little bit. Wood is an ongoing expense for any type of woodworking. Just previously, I just released a video not too long ago about a bench that I made out of reclaimed lumber. This is an example of one of the reclaimed boards that I got out of a construction dumpster. Is it a perfect board? No, it's not. There are some flaws in it, and I can understand why they didn't want to use it in the construction of a house, but there's enough pieces out of this board that I could make several small projects for free. There's also a lot of videos out there about using pallet wood. I'm perfectly okay with that. The only thing about pallet wood is it's a lot of work trying to get that wood into a condition where you can use it. Normally it has to be planed down, it has to be straightened. It's just the nature of pallet wood. The reason it's pallet wood is because it's low quality wood. But I have seen some amazing work done in terms of using pallet wood and things like that. So think about being able to go in and search some of these construction sites. Make sure you don't take anything that's valuable. In fact, in my own personal rule is, even though it might be sitting there next to the dumpster, unless it is inside the dumpster where it is obvious that it has been slated for disposal, I don't take it. All right. So also don't get yourself in trouble with any construction sites that prohibit that kind of stuff. So think about that. But there are ways that you can get into woodworking for a lot less money. So that actually brings me to my last point. I am considering launching a series of basic woodworking projects that can be done with very little tools, very little investment in tools, very little investment in material. And I'm really thinking about aiming this towards parents or grandparents that are wanting to get their young makers involved in woodworking or introducing. It's not going to be just for kids. It would actually be designed for anybody who has an interest in woodworking but no skills. If you're intermediate woodworker or advanced, it's not going to do you much good. But what I'm thinking about doing is actually putting together a basic tool set, going out to yard sales, estate sales, things like that, to show you how this can actually be done using some very simple techniques and very simple materials to come up. If you think that's a good idea, drop me a comment down below and let me know if you'd be interested in that. I've got ideas for several different projects out there. I'm even thinking about, after assembling this basic toolkit, possibly doing a giveaway, especially if I can find a young maker out there that needs some tools and needs some encouragement to get started. I would probably send that to them. So don't know the specifics. We'll probably come up with some kind of contest near the end of the series to see about giving that away. But let me know what you think about that idea, if that's something that you would support, and if you'd be willing to, watch the videos to see how this thing progresses. So let me know. Again, any comments, questions that you have, any suggestions, I am very much open to those and would love to hear from you. Okay, till next time, take care. God bless.